Hello and welcome to The Pulse. We're live from our studios here at Kokomlimle in Accra. We're also live on DSTV, channel 421, GoTV, channel 125, and on all our social media handles. We're joining you on TV. Coming up on The Pulse, minority turns up the heat on government, demanding the immediate dismissal of Energy Minister John Jinapor over alleged negligence in the Akosombo substation blaze and widespread power outages in parts of the country.
Official is to face scrutiny. Let that same scrutiny fall on the Energy Minister and on this president. For it is their ministry, their policy choices, and their disdain.
We have details as the minority cites the government's neglect of the energy sector recovery plan as reason for the current power crisis.
And infrastructural failure, one that the ESRP was designed to solve, one that the MPP government was actively addressing, and one that this NDC government has allowed to worsen through incompetence and willful neglect.
Plus, forensic research by Joy News shows Ghana's power supply has been wallowing in deficit as far back as March this year, with generation shortfalls reaching almost 30% just 24 hours before the Akosombo substation fire. We have exclusive details plus analysis for you right here on The Pulse. Ghanaians in South Africa's capital Pretoria confined to their homes as protests erupt over immigration concerns. We hear from Ghana's High Commission in South Africa, which has urged Ghanaians to shut their shops and avoid areas where they could be targeted. We're also live in South Africa for updates. The latest of these and many other stories are coming up on The Pulse. The Pulse is brought to you by Defendro Cough Expectorant Defendro. Breathe easy, feel better. My name is Kenneth Gyasi. Details after this. Good afternoon. The minority in Parliament is calling for the head of Energy Minister John Jinapor over alleged negligence resulting in the recent power crisis. The minority's call is in reaction to the minister's announced suspension of the Gridco boss, Mark Ewuah, and a reshuffle in the ECG Ashanti region leadership. Addressing the media at a press conference in Parliament a while ago, Deputy Ranking Member on the Energy Committee, Collins Adomako-Mensah first, insisted the recent crisis precedes the fire at the Akosombo substation last Thursday.
That is the crisis this government owns, fully, entirely, and without excuse. On 19th April 2026, 4 days before the Akosombo incident, President Mahama stood before the Ghanaian people and declared, "The outages you are facing are not doomsday." He described the disruptions as necessary steps to ensure a more reliable and stable power supply. The Ghanaian people did not believe him then. They do not believe him now. And the MPP minority will not allow this government to shelter its own incompetence behind the narrative of a single incident. We say to the president directly, the darkness Ghanaians are experiencing is not the product of 23rd April 2026. It is a product of 14 months of policy failure, institutional neglects, and the deliberate abandonment of the energy sector recovery framework that the Nana Addo Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia administration put in place to prevent exactly this kind of collapse. The government of President Akufo-Addo and Vice President Bawumia did not leave behind a broken sector without solutions. They left behind the Energy Sector Recovery Program, which we call the ESRP.
Every day, decisions are made in parliament, in the courts, in the presidency, in the market. Decisions that shape the nation. Here on The Beat, we follow with keen eyes and track the centers of power.
And also look at the recently imposed 1 cedi development levy to try and cushion consumers. But my hope is that sooner than later, this war will come to an end.
Join me for a quick, sharp, and authoritative update on decisions that matter to you.
Lawyers for Chairman Wontumi, led by Andy Apiakubi, raised a concern about.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Sport Furniture, where we turn your dreams into reality with our exquisite furniture. My name is Ohima Champuma. Let's get started. These section of sofas are one of our best sellers. They are perfect for family gatherings and a cozy movie night. Here in our dining room section, you will find everything you need to host those unforgettable dinner parties. Hello. For those of you who love to work from home or just love a beautifully organized home office space, we have impressive home office furniture just for you. Now, let's explore our bedroom furniture. Take a look at these sets, best of its kind, and it's available in various sizes and finishes to match your decor. That concludes the tour of our showroom. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Visit us soon or log on to our website.
This is not just rap. This is not just lyrics. This is War on the Mic. Welcome to Beats and Bars, the ultimate rap battle competition in Ghana, where raw talents meet hungry ambition, where bars hit harder and only the strongest survive.
Fanboy no they pay. Sudi agoro be best sorti o get bonnet is such as Kelly. Okay, on a man, I'm another one, but reject another one phantom now.
Two communities, two fearless MCs, 3 intense rounds, 1 undisputed champion, no backing down, no mercy, just skill, flow, delivery, and bars.
You better get to it. I say, shake it, bala, bala, shake it, bala, bala, shake it, bala, bala.
Who owns the mic? Who controls the stage? Who takes the crown? Beats and Bars.
As 2030 approaches, it is time to assess and celebrate the SDG achievements of women.
He4She champions and organizations in Africa and the diaspora.
Women in Sustainability Africa, WISA, in partnership with the UN Global Compact, the Ministry of Gender,
Children and Social Protection Ghana, the Office of the Minister of State for Climate Change and Sustainability Ghana,
University of Ghana Department of Economics and EIB Network presents
the second Women in Sustainability Africa WISA Festival under the theme Empowering Women for the Economic Sustainability of Africa.
Date Friday, 1st May 2026. Time 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Venue City Conference Center, University of Ghana, Legon.
This is a call to support and amplify the effort of women,
He for She champions, women groups, NGOs,
corporate institutions, and civil society organizations leading gender and SDG efforts across Africa and the diaspora.
Special guest of honor, Honorable Agnes Namomolate.
Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection Ghana.
Guest of honor, Honorable Isifu Seidu.
Minister of States for Climate Change and Sustainability Ghana.
Convener Nana Yasewa Sapon, Founder and President, Women in Sustainability Africa.
Special guest, Professor Priscilla Chumesi Bafo.
Associate Professor, University of Ghana, Department of Economics.
Tolulope Louis Tamoka and Dr. Mrs. Gifty Owusu Ezekiel.
Special guest, Bishop E.O. Ansah, General Overseer, Eternal Life Church. Special guest, Nilgun Zaimoglu, President, Women's Development Association, Kajiga, Turkey.
Ambassador Dr. Mercy Gilbert, Ajwa Ajaychun,
Dr. Charity Binka.
Guest speakers, Juliet Ibrahim,
Madam Charity Akotia,
Lydia Abe,
Pel Poku,
Yayra Agbufa,
Queen Mothers Association of Ghana. Performances, look out for sustainable fashion performance by Revival.org and the ladies from Kantamanto Upcyclers Association.
Music performance by Lali and Lola, and comedy performance by Jacinta. Sponsors, Absa, Nestle, Beaver Drinks, Saks by Boundary Road,
GH Media School, Shape Healthcare, Media Partners, Nigeria, Zambia, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana.
Register for free at www.womeninsustainabilityafrica.org for more information.
WhatsApp or call 0202 733 1444.
Hello again. You're welcome back to The Pulse and to our earlier story where the minority in Parliament held a press conference a while ago calling for the head of the sector, Minister John Jinapor. And I have my colleague James Aveji in the studio with me. He covered that particular news conference and he's joining me. James, what reasons did the minority give for the sacking of the Energy Minister John Jinapor?
Well, Ken, we'll go to the reasons pretty shortly, but first on why they believe that the incident that occurred at Akosombo is not the sole reason for this energy crisis we are facing, power crisis we are facing as we speak.
Right, James, before you go, though, we also have Isaac Kofi-Addo. He's the head of research here at Joy News, also in the studio to give us some analysis into this current power crisis we're experiencing as a country. James, carry on.
Yes, so Ken, the minority believes that the incident that happened at Akosombo on Thursday is not the only reason for what the power crisis we are experiencing. They said that before they left office, as part of the IMF requirement, they were demanded to present an energy sector plan to address both financial issues that were the underpinning reasons for the crisis we experienced at the time, including the debts we have in the sector. And so what they did was to present what they call the Energy Sector Recovery Program to the IMF, which was endorsed by the IMF because, according to the IMF, at the time, our energy sector debt was about $2.2 billion US. And even the current minister projected that if the debt is not dealt with, the debt will increase to about $9 billion by 2026. And so this plan they presented to government is supposed to be implemented. And they believe that largely the plan, a large part of the plan has not been implemented. We know about the cash waterfall mechanism, which government has put plans in place to implement, which a lot of the sector monitors have said they are doing quite well as far as the cash water for mechanism is concerned. But they said other infrastructure development projects under this ESPR has not been implemented. That is what is causing what we experienced months before this incident on Thursday. We can listen to the deputy ranking member on the committee talk about that ESPR.
The government of President Akufo-Addo and Vice President Bawumia did not leave behind a broken sector without solutions. They left behind the Energy Sector Recovery Program, which we call the ESRP, a comprehensive, internationally agreed framework designed to address the financial and operational vulnerabilities of Ghana's electricity sector. The ESRP had been negotiated with the IMF as a structural benchmark under Ghana's extended credit facility. It had specific timelines, specific targets, and specific commitments. It was not a wish list. It was a working plan, agreed with international partners and designed to be implemented with urgency. The IMF had projected Ghana's energy sector financial shortfall at $2.2 billion and had explicitly identified the ESRP as the mechanism for preventing supply disruptions. The government's own finance minister has acknowledged that cumulative sector shortfalls could exceed $9 billion by 2026 without immediate reforms. Independent power producers' obligations remained outstanding. Revenue collection failures at ECG, with distribution losses exceeding 25% of electricity generated, had been documented, flagged, and handed to this government with a clear prescription for resolution. Crisis as a maintenance program. It's renamed DUMSO as upgrades, and it's presided month after month over the financial strangulation of the very infrastructure upon which millions of Ghanaians depend. The question every Ghanaian must ask is a simple one. If the lights were on when the NPP handed over power, and the lights are off now, who turned them off?
All right, so that was the demand of the minority in Parliament earlier today. James, what else did they say?
What we are experiencing, their clear demand is that not only you recall that the Gridco boss has been suspended now, and then the announcement is that there will be some restructuring at the leadership of the ECG in the Ashanti region. The minority said that these two people are not the only ones that are supposed to suffer for what is happening, but the minister as well, including the president, must be answering some serious questions to Ghanaians as to why we are where we are today.
Sector hemorrhaging cash under NDC stewardship is not of his making. It is the making of his political principles. To hold him publicly accountable while shielding the policy architects of this disaster is not justice. It is deflection dressed up as decisive leadership. Even with the fire outbreak at Akosombo, the government has a responsibility to protect our national energy infrastructure backbone, the transmission network. However, lack of maintenance and safety protocols must be blamed on the government. We do not oppose investigation. Any inquiry into events at critical national infrastructure must be thorough and transparent. If negligence, dereliction of duty, or any other culpable conduct is found, those responsible must face the full force of the law. But investigation must precede conclusion, and the suspension of officials must not serve as a press release substitute for a genuine reckoning with the policy failures that has brought Ghana's energy sector to its knees. If any official is to face scrutiny, let that same scrutiny fall on the Energy Minister and on this President. For it is their ministry, their policy choices, and their disdain for the ESRP that created the conditions under which critical national infrastructure has been allowed to deteriorate.
James Aveji is still with me in the studio, and so is Isaac Okofie-Addo, because Joy News forensic research has revealed Ghana's power supply has been in deficit since March this year, with generation shortfalls reaching more than 1,000 megawatts just a day before the Akosombo substation fire outbreak, which led to the truncation of about 900 megawatts of power, leading to a national load shedding. And head of research here at Joy News, as I mentioned earlier, Isaac Okofie-Addo has all the exclusive data, and he's joining me in the studio with more. Isaac, help us understand, how bad was the situation as far back as in March?
Well, so remember, the argument has been that but for the fire outbreak, the substation fire outbreak, and the maintenance that they're having, or the Energy Ministry is having, we would have had stable power. So we had to test this hypothesis with the available data that we have. And in fact, we ran a lot of scenarios. And in fact, we are bringing to you 3 scenarios that we ran. But definitely, we had to run the entire year and pick 3 scenarios to help you understand the situation about a month ago, just roughly beginning of this month, and what happened 24 hours before the substation fire that caused about 900 megawatts power to be truncated. If you look at the entire year data from January 1 to 22nd April, before the fire outbreak at the Akosombo substation, what you realize is that in terms of the country's average available power generated for consumption, the average that we have looked at, not just morning, but morning, afternoon, and evening, the average was hovering around 3,400 megawatts. 3,400 megawatts. And as we know, our peak demand as a country hovers around 4,300 megawatts. So even before the fire outbreak, the annual data, or let me say the data year to date, or year to the 22nd April, had shown that if you are comparing the available power to the peak demand of 4,300, we had a significant deficit of more than 1,000 megawatts to be shared in terms of load. And that was the situation, or that has been the situation since January 2026. Since the beginning of the year till 22nd, that has been our situation. But what we decided to do is to look at these 3 scenarios. So what was the situation, Ken, as far back as 1st March 2026? Did we have reliable supply of power? In fact, the amount of power generated around that time, was it enough to even meet our peak demand? Was it enough to meet our daily average demand? This is what the data is saying. The data is telling you that as of 1st March 2026, we had average available power, afternoon, morning, afternoon, and evening, hovering around 3,055. This according to industry data that we have exclusive access to. Dependable capacity that as a country that we should be relying on as generation is around 4,855. So just look at where we are supposed to be, the ideal situation in terms of dependable capacity versus where we are. And look at our peak demand, 4,300. So clearly, you could see that as of 1st March 2026, we had a deficit in terms of power generation of about 1,245 megawatts. This power, or this deficit, is bigger than what Akosombo brings on stream. Akosombo, in terms of even installed capacity, is about 1,020. Dependable is around 900. So this is more than Akosombo and possibly combined in terms of the deficits we had as of March 2020. And you can remember the power outage or the doomsday we're experiencing was even there as far back as March. And if you look at the year to 22nd April data, it tells you that we still had deficits from 1st January to 22nd April. Now let's look at the other situation as of April 2026. If we look at this scenario, what you realize is that we're still recording a deficit. We still have power deficit in terms of generation. And we need to understand that there's a difference between generation, transmission or distribution, and the power that gets to your home. So generation definitely would be done by the power plant, Akosombo, the independent power producers, the renewables. We combine all of them. And in fact, what they can produce in terms of maximum capacity is what we usually call installed capacity, what we can actually rely on. But in terms of dependable capacity at every point in time, what should be available for us to consume is what we call dependable capacity, which is about 4,800 megawatt. But if you look at as of 1st April, the situation wasn't pretty much different from what we experienced as at 1st March, or in the month of March, or in the entire 5 months or 4 months of the year. What you see is that available power as of April 1st was around 3,095. Compare this to peak demand. Compare this to dependable. We were below these levels. In terms of deficits, comparing just peak demand to available power around that time was around 1,070, 1,760 megawatt. This is actually big in terms of the deficit. What you realize is that even before, the start of April, the start of this month, we had a bigger deficit to deal with. Even when Akosombo was on stream, you had Buyo on stream, and almost all the IPPs on stream. Now, this is 24 hours before the outbreak, or the fire outbreak. This was our situation. Available power had improved, marginally, to about 3,140 megawatts. But if you compare it to dependable, peak demand, what you see is that there's a gap. Was a gap 159, still bigger than what Akosombo brings, possibly still bigger than what Akosombo and maybe maybe hydrothermal bring combined. This is the deficit 24 hours before the fire outbreak. We were shedding the load of 1,156. If you're comparing this to our peak demand, because you have to ask yourself, if this is our peak demand, and this is the available power that you have on the average, morning, afternoon, evening, and we check in the evening where we are supposed to even produce at maximum, where demand is high, we still never saw production that was more than 4,300. It was always averaging around 3,400. And that will always give you a deficit which is more than 1,000 megawatts. Right. So this data is telling you that even before the fire outbreak, before the commencement of the installation of new transformers, which possibly started in March and April, we had a huge power deficit to deal with, which according to the data that we've analyzed, was hovering around 1,000 megawatts in fact, daily, if you look at the data that we've analyzed within the period under review.
The Energy Ministry has put out a rejoinder disputing our findings. Let's use their data. What do we know?
So first of all, we need to clarify that the Energy Ministry needs to understand that yesterday, what we were comparing was the situation as at midday, right? And the data is actually segregated in 3 categories. Morning, which will give you the power situation as at 7 a.m. and give you another power situation in the afternoon and one in the evening around 10 p.m., right? So what we were doing as at yesterday midday, we only had access to the our power available as at 7 a.m. And we were comparing that to the ideal situation, or the capacity of the thermal plant, the capacity of Akosombo Dam, the capacity of almost all the hydro dams. And we realized that if you look at yesterday as at midday, you had Akosombo, which was producing about 86 megawatts compared to 900 megawatt that it can produce dependably, right? If you look at Asono Nasogli, around that time, it was producing about 74% of what it can produce. If you look at other IPPs, they were all producing below their capacity. Right. The question is, you have a deficit of more than 10,000 or 1,000 megawatts to actually fill. And you have your independent power producers available in the morning, you have deficit. Why is it that if you are not shedding load, all the power plants were not available to actually close that gap for the people to have power, right? So it shows that what we're comparing was the situation as at midday compared to what the power plant could actually produce. So that is not wrong statistically. You can actually make that conclusion. So we need to put that also across. But in terms of the data that the Energy Ministry put out, what we found out was that paragraph 3 of that rejoinder actually even exposes the ministry further, where the communique starts out to say that, well, if you look at our installed capacity, which they say is a little under 6,000 megawatts a day, versus our peak demand of 4,300 to about 4,400. With these numbers, it shows that we are not underproducing, which is significant, or which I can say is very misleading, because...
So that means, according to the data that he put out, we should be having surplus.
We should be having surplus, but that is not the situation, because we need to understand that installed capacity is different from dependable, or what is available, and it's different from what you can produce in a certain period of time. It's fluid, which we understand anyway. But you can't compare installed capacity to what we can produce now to our demand and say that because of the installed capacity, we should be fine. That is not the case. If you look at what we were producing as yesterday, it was not enough to meet the national demand. That is why we had to shed load. That's why some of us had to sleep in darkness. That's why I had to find my daughter as late as 9 p.m. yesterday, because we didn't have light. I had to get a fan to fan her. If we had enough to supply the entire country, we shouldn't be shedding load around that time. Now, let's go back to the data point. 6,000 installed capacity as they claim, minus peak demand of 4,300 should give you a spare of about 1.7 or 1,700 megawatts. Yeah. That 1,700 megawatt is far, far ahead of what we are losing from Akosombo. Because dependably, Akosombo here, on average, has been producing about 700 megawatt, producing below capacity. Clear, the data is out there, you can verify. So with Akosombo going upstream, with this data that the ministry provided, we should be fine. Because if you have a surplus of 1,700 and Akosombo, which is about 900 leaving the stream, you should still have a spare of close to about 800 megawatts to possibly deal with it as reserve. But that is not the situation, because we shouldn't confuse the situation. Don't compare installed capacity to available power supply. What we were comparing yesterday was the situation as at midday to what we could actually produce and the demand that was coming through and why we're having a deficit. And so you can look at that rejoinder that was put out by the Energy Ministry, and you could actually see that it points that we actually have a problem with generation. It could possibly come from IPPs or the thermal plant, because we have checked and we've seen that they have a deficit of about 800 megawatts coming from the thermal aspect. Hydro is very bad, because hydro's capacity currently is about just 40%, about 30%. I mean, if you compare Akosombo, Bui, and all of that, what we have realized is that all of them have not been producing up to capacity. The question is, what is happening? Why is it that all the IPPs are currently producing below capacity? Sonana Sogli, as of yesterday, when we checked, did not produce at capacity. And in fact, we have intelligence that shows that some of the power plants are struggling to get gas. There are structural issues. Right. Those are the questions we are asking. And in fact, yesterday what we did was to look at the situational analysis to compare what was prevailing as at midday to the ideal situation.
We're also getting some clarification from the sector minister that the intermittent power outages we're experiencing is also attributable to the fact that they are changing transformers. How is that impacting the distribution of power, the changing of transformers?
In fact, if you look at the year to 22nd April data that we analyzed, which shows that our average production has been around 3,400. If we are to go by this data and we are to install transformers with super speed, we are supposed to finish with all the 2,500 transformer installation, we will still have a deficit. We'll still be doing load shedding or shedding load, because at the moment, the power we are producing is not enough to meet supply, especially in the evening. That is why you have to sleep in darkness. Some of us are running shifts, 12 hours on, 12 hours in the dark. Sometimes you have to do it in the evening or possibly during the day. And so even if you are done installing the transformers, it's a matter of transmission, distribution, right? What we are talking about is generation, which has nothing to do with transformers. Transformers do not generate power. It is the plant, the hydro plant and the thermal plant. So at the moment, the problem is not just distribution, but what the data is telling us that we have a significant supply gap or production or generation gap when it comes to the generation aspect. So it's two aspects. There's a problem with generation, and just like you're saying, maintenance and what is happening in Akosombo will simply mean that we also have a problem with transmission and distribution. That's why the problem is almost nationwide, and possibly many are saying it's a double whammy because you have almost all the sectors, generation, transmission and distribution, all having a challenge. But we are saying that a significant part of that problem is coming from generation.
Right, because even before the announcement of the changing of transformers, I was sleeping in darkness.
Yeah, I was also sleeping in darkness. I'm sure James was also sleeping in darkness as well.
They changed our transformers on Sunday.
Where I live in Accra, we don't experience
James lives
highest area.
One of those privileged.
He doesn't experience it.
Electricity and water supply.
Right. We live in close proximity. On Sunday, they said they changed the transformer. The following day, the light went off. Today, I was coming without light. I had to come to work and iron.
The president actually said where we live,
it's very, very
our transformer installation was complete. So we should be enjoying light.
Yeah.
So why are we in darkness? Yeah.
Anyway.
It will get to you.
Isaac Kokeje, thank you very much for that update. I still have James Aviji with me, who covered that press conference, which was organized by the minority in Parliament. And James, what else are we learning from that particular press conference?
So in relation to what Kofi said, the minority today are claiming that as we speak, government is owing the IPPs as well as the gas supply companies. For instance, the IPP, they said the government owes them some $500 million US. That's separate from the energy sector debt, that is the legacy debt that has been hedged and cleared. They said they owe them $500 million and also owe the gas supply company some $200 million US, a total of $700 million. That's the claim from them. They want the Energy Minister to also account for how much has been collected through the new One Ghana CD levy and what exactly government used that levy, the total accretion from that levy for, and vowing that they may drag the Energy Minister to Parliament when they come back to answer those questions on the floor of Parliament. So, in a nutshell, that's what the minority have been up to in Parliament today, Ken.
James Aviji reports to us from Parliament. Thank you. Let's go onto the telephone lines right now, and I've been joined by Senior Research and Policy Analyst at the Institute for Energy Security, IES, Hache, Derek Emmanuel. Also joining is a member of the Energy Committee, Michael Akufo-Addo. Gentlemen, grateful for your time this afternoon. I want to begin with you, Derek. Welcome to the program. Now, we here at Joy News have been, putting together some research, finding out that, in fact, even before the Akosombo substation banned, we were running on a deficit, power deficit in the country. So really, can we attribute the intermittent power supply that we're experiencing right now to the fire that gutted the Akosombo substation on Thursday?
All right. Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity. So what I want to say regarding whether we have excess capacity, then the report that has been put out by your organization regarding the installed capacity and then the dependable capacity, we all have to understand that when you have an installed capacity, basically that is the size and that is what the plant can produce. But not every machine can be able to operate at 100% efficiency. And so there are limits to some of them. There are operational, guidelines that some of them need to follow. And so the dependable capacity is what we all have. That today, if you want to all put on our thermal plants, our hydro, our renewable, we are likely to be able to generate this amount of power. That possibility is what we all have as a respite. The fact that we are not producing at that dependable capacity does not mean that the capacity is not there. Therefore, whatever reason why we are not producing at that dependable capacity might be one, either probably there are some challenges, or maybe the offtake, which more or less you all have to understand. Every day, like as we are speaking right now, the power that will be consumed tomorrow is being planned off today, this evening, by Gridco. Gridco is a system operator. So whatever data that you had, you got it as a system operator from Gridco. There's no other place you will get your data from. So that system operator is operating, is projecting, I would say planning for tomorrow. So today, as we are speaking, they look at the system reliability. What amount of power can the system evacuate or take, such that they will not be burdened? So they now communicate with the, the generator, and then the distributor now gets the power. That is ECG. So Gridco more or less serves as a middleman. If tomorrow there's a need, and then the system can take about 4,000 megawatts of power, they now communicate with the generator that, okay, can you bring on board more generation capacity as compared to, say, yesterday, where we were doing probably below 3,100 or even below 3,200 megawatts. Then they now increase their capacity because they have the capacity that if you call on them any day, they'll be able to meet. That peak, dependable capacity. Now that dependable capacity is far higher than our peak demand. Now the peak demand, it doesn't happen just consistently within the whole year. Sometimes it happens just one day. It can happen that maybe a day in December, like say 18th December, is the day we are going to record the highest peak. But before then, there will be other days that we will record some peaks, but those ones will not be the highest for the whole year. Now, the highest for the whole year is what is always used for analysis as the national peak demand. And so when you are doing the analysis, you cannot compare the peak demand like, say, December, where the whole country is always in an active mode, and then compare that to a period like, say, March, and you expect the generator to be able to generate power at that peak demand. Who is going to be the off-taker? The system will not be able to support it. And so that technical communication and coordination happens between Gridco and then the generator and then the distributor. And so we need to get it clear. The country, Ghana, today as we speak, have a higher dependable capacity to be able to meet our peak demand. As for whatever reason why we are not able to generate that highest amount to be able to meet our peak demand, that is the explanation that we can all call for. Why are we not producing at that dependable capacity? Then you can be given a reason. Either maybe the system cannot uptake the power, or maybe there's a fuel shortage, or maybe there's a technical breakdown. Even those ones, it does not affect the dependable capacity, because the dependable capacity is what you can rely on any day, any time. Now, using the analysis, it is in the evening that we have a higher peak demand. And it is in the evening that all our gadgets and whatever thing that goes up. If you look at the Gridco system analysis, it is always in the evening that we have a higher demand for power. So in the evening, the generator between the Gridco between the generator and then the distributor anticipates that every evening there must be an increase in production of power as compared to what happens in the morning and then in the afternoon. In the afternoon, sometimes it's low. In the morning, sometimes it's low. But in the evening, it is always high. So you can also not do an analysis with a morning peak demand as compared to an evening peak demand, or comparing a normal day evening peak demand to the one that would have been reported as the highest for the whole year. It will be a system error. And so that is what we need to all understand.
Right. Derek, from where you sit, what do you think is causing the intermittent power supply?
So from where I sit today and from what the system can take, I'll take the intermittence of power supply as that force majeure that has been emanating from the Akosombo substation, and then the other ones will be the technical, installments or transformer upgrades that we are having. That is what the system can pick. If the system is available, if Gridco can tell us that if they are able to generate enough power, about say 4,000 megawatts, and that system can evacuate it to the various houses, then probably I will not have an issue with it. But if the system cannot evacuate the power, then whatever thing that we are evacuating is what will make the system stable and not jeopardize or create a bigger confusion.
You cited the changing of transformers and the subsequent burning of the substation as the major causes of the intermittent power supply that we're having. But before any of those, I was still experiencing doomsday. So before that, what was causing that?
All right, so comparing the two, intermittent power supply, one emanating from the substation is not the same as the transformer upgrade. Now, the substation becomes a heavy one because we are talking about evacuating power that has been generated that is close to about 1,000 megawatts. That cannot be compared to a localized fault where maybe a transformer upgrade, or let me say a transformer cannot evacuate the total power that has been transmitted. So if I take the Akosombo one, that becomes more significant. And so you see that there is a huge shortfall from that angle because of the bend down of the Akosombo substation. But if you take the transformer upgrade, you will not really see it affecting the system peak. You will not really see the transformer upgrade affecting the kind of power that has been evacuated. And so if before this Akosombo, disaster, we were experiencing some level of doomsday. Yes, I'll call it doomsday, but the doomsday from that angle, the meaning for it is purely because maybe the transformers were overburdened and then they will not be able to distribute the power to our various houses. Now, the system has also been programmed in such a way that it is able to act on its own to be able to, curtail any more disaster that would have been experienced. The reason why I'm saying this is that the system is such programmed that it acts on its own. Sometimes it trips off on its own, not even with a human being acting on it. There are instances that the human being needs to act on it. There are also instances that the system its own responds to whatever upload or overburden that the system is experiencing. That is a localized one. For that one, they will need to explain whatever thing that is causing it. Now, the other issue, because we are dealing with the term doomsday, we should all understand that we've played politics with the term doomsday, whether because it is a generational issue, a transmissional issue, and then a distributional issue. Nobody wants to be associated with the negative political communications when it comes to doomsday. So we are all careful. But as people who understand the sector and want to be more transparent with Ghanaians, let us explain to Ghanaians what is really the cause of a particular doomsday. The term cannot be changed. It is power on and off as a 3 word. But whatever thing that is causing it, let Ghanaians know. But when you talk about the doomsday emanating from a generational problem, that is quite significant. I'm saying this because you are not able to add a megawatt of power within a day. To be able to generate a megawatt of power to add your national supply, it takes a minimum a year. So if I come and tell you that I have a generational deficit, what I'm trying to tell you that I'm positioning your mind to let you know that I cannot be able to generate power within a day, a 2, or a 3. It must take a minimum a year before I'm able to generate power for you. But if I tell you that I'm experiencing doomsday because of a grid core or a transmissional fault, because of a transformer upgrade or a distributional challenge, then that one can be solved within the shortest time as compared to a generational problem. And so when you tell me as somebody that the deficit we are all, or the outage is a generational issue, then you are telling me that there's no way Ghana can be able to meet our peak demand until we are able to generate or add even more megawatts. Then why are we able to export power? Because as it stands now, sometimes we're able to export power to our neighboring country. Why are we able to export power? It means that we have the capacity. That doesn't mean that we should not be able to face the increase in population and then urbanization, so that in the near future we do not get caught up when we are not able to meet our peak demand.
Derek, don't go yet. Michael Akufo-Addo is with the minority side on the Energy Committee. He's also joining the conversation. Welcome to the program. The minority is calling for the head of the Energy Minister John Jinapor over the recent power crisis. But just yesterday, he laid out the reasons and promised to fix it. So why really should he go?
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers. This evening, I've listened to all your speakers, and it's quite interesting, the kind of arguments they are raising. But most importantly, the Minister for Energy initiated a process which he came to elaborate the issues that were going on within the industry, the energy sector. And through that, he intimated that they had removed the MD of Gridco. So the question is, if you remove the MD of Gridco and even done reshuffling at ECG, then why not you? Because the bar stops at the top. The interesting thing is, many a times such things happen and we look for the low-hanging fruits and tackle them. But the abrupt sacking of the Gridco CEO and the ECG management team in Kumasi is marks of desperation and deflection. We believe that instead of addressing the real issues like fuel shortages, unpaid debts to independent power producers. This government is resorting to firing scapegoats to appease public anger. So that's one of the reasons why we believe that if these appointees or those at the lower end are going, then the minister should also take that fall. If he thinks that something untoward has been done, because in any case, what kind of investigation was done before the CEO of Agric was dismissed? Somebody was appointed by his...
He's been made to step
John
aside.
Mahama.
According to the statement, hello, Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah.
He's been made to step aside for investigations to commence. So he could be reinstated. Who knows?
Oh, but the man's, he's barely going for pension. He has some few months in office. So if you tell him to step aside, even the man himself has released a statement saying he's on leave. So if you tell him to step aside, more or less, you just want to replace him, and that's why we are saying all these things are rhetoric being done to appease the public anger, to sweep issues under the carpet so that it will divert attention from the real issues. But what are the real issues? We were in this country when this same government came to tell us that one of the key issues in the power sector is the fuel supply. The fact that we are not getting enough fuel to power our plants, and that is due to financial issues because we are not getting enough money to pay for fuel. They made us understand that when it comes to the power sector, you have to pay for the fuel, and currently the pricing does not capture fuel, so we have to find a way to pay for the fuel. And because of that, they introduced the 1 cedi levy in Parliament and passed it, and I quite remember clearly during the debate, when some of us raised the issue that the 1 cedi levy was even on the high, the majority leader, Honorable Mahama spoke that this 1 cedi levy was going to pay for fuel and going to end doomsday. That was his choice of words, that it was going to end doomsday. So why doomsday today? I give it up for your colleague who did that research, showing us our current capacity and the demand that we need at this moment, the dependable capacity and all that. And it's clear that as it stands now, some of our power plants are down. As it stands now, we do not have enough fuel to power some of these plants, because even before the incidents that happened with the Akosombo Dam, even before that incident, we were experiencing doomsday. And I heard yourself clearly saying that you yourself, you were experiencing doomsday. And I think Ghanaians will agree with this, that we were experiencing doomsday. It is not the Akosombo incident that has really caused this. So the Akosombo incident is just come to worsen the situation, the plight. Mm-hmm. But the government should come out clearly and openly and transparently so that we will understand the real issues. And we believe on the minority side that with the 1 cedi levy, which is giving them more than 500 million cedis every month, at least they have been cushioned enough to give us fuel. But the real issue is the fact that some of the plans over the period, the government decided to change its system. For instance, the T3, to change it into a combined cycle, when you knew that you were going into a peak period. So poor planning has been part of this whole issue. You decide to do maintenance of ECD infrastructure, which was planned long before, because ECD does not just get up and say, I'm doing maintenance. At that point was procurement done for these transformers. If you look at the period that the transformers came in and all that, you will see that it had been planned already, but then when was it supposed to start? And why start now, especially during peak demand? When we were not in peak demand and we were doing around 3,000 megawatts, why didn't you do the necessary changes or the necessary works that you had to do and wait till you are in peak demand before you start these works? These are some of the questions you are asking. Right. Some of the questions you are also asking is that, what is the government using the 1 cedi for? Because as it stands now, they have not been transparent with us in Parliament. They've not been transparent to Ghanaians. We don't know where the money is going into. how much has been put into fuel purchases, how much has been put in paying debt that has been accrued, and all that factors. So the Deputy Minority Chief, Honorable Habib, indicated today that he'll be filing an RTI to demand answers on some of these things. For instance, the usage of the 1 cedi levy that was given to for the energy sector. So there are lots of questions that need to be answered.
When are you going to file that RTI? When is that going to be?
As soon as Parliament resumes. Parliament is going to, we are coming back from recess next month, in the second week. So as soon as we come back, the Deputy Minority Leader, Minority Chief Whip, will be filing this. I'm even sure within this week, you'll be filing the RTI. And when Parliament resumes, we'll also be filing questions and seeking answers. In fact, we are even asking for an independent investigation to go into the incidents that happened at Agric, because as it stands now, it's being politicized. I've seen social media content that is indicating that, the MD was a political actor and the incidents happening in Kumasi are based on political sabotage. I've seen and heard the NDC Regional Chairman for Ashanti Region, Nana Kwesi, say that the ECG workers there are political saboteurs and all that. Then painfully, if you know the kind of work these engineers and hardworking Ghanaians, public servants do in the energy sector, I don't think anybody will label them as such. So I think there should be an independent inquiry to go into the issues so that we do not label our hardworking engineers and workers at the energy sector as political saboteurs. It's very sad to listen to such comments. And I'm praying that the government will listen. The various comments that are going on, the doomsday now is very unbearable. It's very, very unbearable. Lives are at stake, businesses are at stake. Students are writing BEC next week. On Monday, JHS 3 students are writing BEC, and they cannot sit in doomsday to write BEC.
Michael, don't go yet. I still have Derek Hatcher of IAS. Derek, if you could offer an advice to the sector minister and government, what would it be? How do we solve this doomsday that has been with us for a while?
All right. Thanks for the opportunity once again. So, asking about the advice that I can give, what I can say is that we should try and solve the problem simultaneously. The reason why I'm saying this is that the leg or the causes of the doomsday are not only one leg. Sometimes it can be a generational issue, sometimes it can be a transmissional issue, sometimes it can be a distributional issue. Now, what we got to do today is more or less like a distributional issue. I got a hint that Gridco will also be having an upgrade, but that will be after the World Cup. When you get to that period, it is still the same term doomsday. When we are not able to ramp up, generation to be able to anticipate for future increases and increased demand, then it means that we will get to another period and you will be faced with another doomsday, and then we will come and say that we are faced with doomsday. If anything, let us try to solve the problems simultaneously, doing all of them together concurrently. Just like in the transport sector, or let me say the road sector, today the whole country is being turned into a construction zone. Tell Ghanaians that I'm trying to solve these problems once and for all, and I'm doing everything simultaneously. So you are solving everything. So tomorrow, we do not wake up and hear that there's another doomsday, and then Ghanaians have to be given another reason that, this doomsday is rather this and that and that. But if you give them a timeline, that, okay, maybe in a month or in a month, 2 or 3, or even maybe 6 months or even a year from now, you'll be able to address every issue that got to do with both distributional, both transmissional, and then generational. So after this 1 year, Ghanaians will not be faced with anything called doomsday again. Then Ghanaians can also give you that opportunity that you are solving the problem. Because this thing that we are experiencing today, trust you me, we were supposed to have this transformer upgrade long ago, 3 years ago, but we never took advantage of it. And we decided to sit aloof and without the necessary investment. The same thing is likely to happen if we do not increase our generational capacity. As I said, you don't take a day to be able to just add a 1 megawatt of power. It takes years of planning. And so you should be able to anticipate that the population is increasing, businesses are expanding. We are talking about industrialization. Now, urbanization is also increasing a whole of demand. for power. So anticipate that and then ramp up investment. So in the near future, you will not also be faced with a generational deficit. If you are bringing other thermal plants on board, you have to do it as soon as possible. If you are bringing a new generational mix, which is nuclear will not come on board right now. It will take like 7 to 10 years. So ramp up investment to be able to address any generational issue. Ramp up investment in terms of grid codes so that they'll be able to undertake the needed technological upgrade, which are modernized to be able to evacuate power at any point in time. And on the part of ECG, let them be more efficient, address the distributional challenges, and let them be able to improve their revenue collection so that whoever that needs to be paid in this value chain, we will not wake up tomorrow and hear that we have to be billed with another, line item when it comes to revenue generation. The money from ECG for whatever power that is being sold can be used to pay for all those in the value chain. And I'm sure we'll be good to go.
Derek Hatcher, thank you very much. He's a senior research and policy analyst at IES. Michael Akufo-Addo is a member of the minority on the Energy Committee. Michael, do I still have you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. Beyond the RTI, the filing of the RTI and calling for the head of the sector minister, what do you intend to do to help this situation come under control? As a minority, you're also stakeholders in the development of this country.
Exactly so. We are stakeholders, but the bar stops with the government. So what we will do is to make sure we put the government on its toes so that they do the right thing. For instance, at this moment, we think there's too much semantics and deception going on, and the government must cease describing this nationwide power crisis as a planned maintenance program, using it as excuses and go into the roots of it. And we are hoping that when Parliament resumes, we'll be able to call the minister and all the sector players to Parliament so that we get to we investigate and get to the details of it. Then we can all make proper recommendations. But today we are also asking that the energy sector recovery program that was agreed with the IMF between the last government, what is its state? Is the government following that program? Because that program was very comprehensive, and the IMF even agreed that that program could help solve a lot of the issues within the energy sector. So these are things that we think will help. But before I leave, let me make a correction. The gentleman from IES, I don't quite clearly get his name.
His name is Derek.
He intimated that over the period, there's not been any proper investment, and that the transformers that are being done now are new investments. In fact, that is wrong to say, because these transformers were procured even before this government came into power. You do not use a year to procure more than 2,000 transformers. It's not done like that. If he will be clear to himself, he will know that it doesn't take a year to procure all these transformers. It was initiated by somebody. But then most importantly, in transmission, over the last 8 years, we know that when you go to Gridco, the 330 kVA Pristia Kumasi transmission line was done in the last 8 years. There's 225 kV Ghana Burkina Faso interconnection project, which was done. There is the Aboise Pristia 330 kV transmission. There's a Brekum supply project that was done. There's a 330 kV Kumasi Bogatanga transmission lines that were done. There's the Volta Chimota Malam 1 kV line. The 330 kV car power Aboise transmission line project. There are a lot of investments that were done. Even when you go to distribution, there was a 330 kV Legon primary substation at the University of Ghana that was built. People who drive around the Ghana, the UGMC area, the roundabout that goes to behind Gimpa, they clearly see the building there. It was built over the period. And there was the substation, the Konkwanoche 33 kV substation that was built. There was the Kumasi Military Hospital substation, the Ashanti Regional Hospital, Syria substation, a lot of all over. We can mention them. So if anybody sits down and say nothing was done, it is inaccurate, and I think it diffuses the whole argument. A lot of investments has been done. There's a plan at ECG. There's a plan at the Ministry of Energy. We believe that governance is a continuum, especially when energy demand is growing. This government must sit up, take the bull by the horn, and follow the strategic plan that is there, continue to fix the issues, and make sure that Ghanaians don't sleep in doom. So, at the end of the day, the question will be, why are you sleeping in doom? So, and that is it. Ghanaians are not concerned so much about, they give you the mandate. They want you to solve their problems. You even come to them to ask for more. And they've given you the 1 cedi. So why don't you solve the problem for them? That is all we are asking. It's little. We are not asking so much.
Right. Michael Kwesi-Addo, thank you very much. He's a minority member on the Energy Committee. When we return from the break, we will take you to South Africa, where Ghana's High Commission has issued a safety precaution to Ghanaians in that country. That's what's coming up after the break.
Now let me share my wildlife experience with you at Safari Valley Eco Park.
Welcome to Safari Valley Eco Park.
Our electric shuttle pulled up and in no time our tour began. We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the Eco Park. We were greeted by experienced tour guides who took us through orientation and how to better enjoy the experience. Watch these animals roam freely in their natural habitat undisturbed by our presence. We saw zebras, sable antelope, brown cranes, mara, silky chicken, nyalas, Shetland ponies, and so many animals I just couldn't keep up. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife, their behavior, and how to interact with them. I even fed them. We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Then we took a break to have lunch in this serene environment. All this amazing experience for this price for adults? This price for teenagers. It's a bargain. As the sun began to set, it was time to go back home, but not before dinner by the campfire. It's been a thrill of a lifetime, and I can't wait till my next visit.
Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature.
Also available Kidivite multivitamin drops for babies under 12 months. Grow strong, grow healthy with Kidivite. Distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Another week is here on the greatest of all time show. My name is Giovanni Clip, and tonight we're bringing you talent. Contestant number 1, let's bring Baby Girl. Let's bring. You did it for you.
Cut. Oh, there is a leakage.
Where's the plumber? For quality and durability, insist on Syntex pipes. If you want quality, this be where you belong. Strong, tough, and reliable. Your perfect match to your trusted Syntex pipe. Syntex pipe, it dey carry water, no wahala. Syntex pipe, it dey make water dey flow. Syntex, and you're strong, and you're tough.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabadim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. Ecobank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
Welcome back to South Africa now, where Ghanaians in Pretoria remain indoors, unable to move freely as locals take to the streets in protest over immigration issues. The demonstrations, which are gaining momentum, are being driven by claims from some South African residents that foreign nationals are taking over job opportunities at the expense of locals. Amid the growing unrest, Ghana's High Commission in that country has swiftly acted, issuing a strongly worded advisory aimed at safeguarding Ghanaian nationals. And my colleague Fatal Bayaga is joining me in studio with details of that particular statement. Fatal, what does the statement say?
Ken, basically, the Ghanaian High Commissioner in that country says that Ghanaians should stay indoors following this particular protest. They say that these are angry South Africans who are out there in their numbers to protest against illegal migrants. In fact, they say that, foreigners have taken over their job opportunities, among other things. So the High Commission in that particular statement told the Ghanaians that stay indoors, don't come out. If you come out and you are attacked, don't blame us, because we've told you that these individuals, as they are coming out, and over the period, that's what they've always been doing, attacking people, among other things, right? So the High Commission in that particular statement said that you need to take your personal security very seriously, right, among other things. And it ended by telling Ghanaians that refrain from, getting yourself in public gatherings, because if you do, that could escalate into, very serious confrontation. So basically, this is what the Ghanaian High Commission is saying. Stay indoors. If you have fufu, pound it, enjoy, don't go out until the protest is over.
We understand that the xenophobic attacks have subdued. What more do we know?
So basically, Ken, what we are gathering from South Africa is that the protesters, they pounded the streets, as I told you earlier. They moved to the presidency, presented their petition to the presidency. In fact, a deputy minister there received the petition. They were numbering about 300. They say they were not happy about all of that. But what we know, and in relation to attacks, among other things, according to the High Commissioner, or Ghana's High Commissioner to South Africa, he said that Ghanaians were not affected in that particular instance, and he is quite sure that they respected the advisory that they released earlier. So at the moment, Ken, what we know is that Ghanaian was not attacked. Their businesses too were not affected as far as this protest is concerned.
And has there been any arrests?
Remember last week or so, a Ghanaian was confronted by some South African citizens who questioned him about his documentation, among other things. That, in fact, degenerated into a major conversation where the Ghanaian Foreign Affairs Minister had to step in. He called on African leaders to condemn that. And in fact, he said that South African authorities were summoned and they, expressed regret following that particular situation. And he said that he had assurances from them that these individuals would be tracked down, arrested, and then made to face the full rigors of the law. But as we speak, and from what we heard from the Ghana's High Commissioner to South Africa, none of these individuals has been apprehended yet. We're still following up on that to see how that goes.
Fatal Bayaga, thank you very much. We stay a while in South Africa because that country's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, has delivered a strong warning against rising xenophobic violence, declaring that no grievance, however legitimate, should justify attacks on foreign nationals, as he called for calm, lawfulness, and a recommitment to African solidarity. Speaking during his Freedom Day address, Mr. Ramaphosa cautioned citizens against taking the law into their own hands, stressing that concerns over illegal migration must not breed prejudice or descend into violence against fellow Africans.
We are a people who live the value of Ubuntu. We should never allow the legitimate concerns of our communities about illegal migration to breed prejudice and hatred towards our fellow Africans. We should not allow that to happen. Yes, we all have concerns, as many other countries in the world have concerns about undocumented and illegal migrants. We must not allow these concerns to give rise to xenophobia, to give rise to hatred that is directed towards people from other African countries or any parts of the world. We are South Africans. We cannot be driven by hatred towards others. Others gave us compassion. They gave us support. And we cannot be driven by hatred towards them. Instead, we must insist that the law of our country be upheld and enforced.
That's South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's explore this further. And joining me now is international relations expert, Dr. Ishmael Holovo. Welcome to the program, Dr. Holovo. How should African governments, Ghana included, respond to protect our citizens?
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your viewers. I think that what the embassy in the South Africa has done is the best way to go. You monitor the environment, and as and when you determine that your citizens may be exposed to some level of harm because of the tensions in South Africa, you have to advise them. There are areas that the protest is not taking place, so they will naturally go about their duty, and you must always continuously monitor the situation and update your citizens as to where they can go, where they cannot go, and the things they can do at any particular point in time. So, of course, that is one way of trying to protect your citizens. You must also continue to work closely with the South African government to ensure that, in as much as their citizens have concern about illegal migration and so forth and so on, those things are done within the context of the law. That every migrant in South Africa, the right is respected. Even illegal migrants have rights that should be protected and must be up.
Finally, the president of that country, Cyril Ramaphosa, has seemingly condemned those attacks. Are they enough? Dr. Ishmael. Right. I was asking you about the condemnation from President Cyril Ramaphosa. Is that enough?
Yeah, I think that set the tone from the South African political leadership. For the first time, they are coming out boldly to declare that they will not tolerate people taking the laws into their own hands. And that is significant. Now, beyond that, you must begin to deploy the police force. You must begin to investigate cases, as we have seen in some videos, of people attacking migrants or whoever they are attacking. Those people must be prosecuted. You must also begin to call some of the leaders to order who have virtually constituted themselves into citizen vigilantes, if you want to call them that way, moving from shop to shop. All those people must be brought to some level of book. So yes, the statement is apt, is something that he is supposed to do, and it is good that he has done that. But beyond that, he must begin to call the citizens to order, must ensure that the laws of South Africa are enforced, both for those who are in South African themselves and the migrants. So I think he has done well, but beyond that, we want to see more of investigation, more of persecution of South Africans who have taken the laws of their own land into their own hands. Because in the issue of migration, there are laws that protect many international conventions on migration. So once somebody is within your jurisdiction, you have the obligation to ensure that the person is safe, the person is protected, until you have taken him through the due legal process where you have determined that he is actually an illegal person, and then you may deport him to his or her country. So he must go beyond that and ensure that the laws of South Africa and the international agreement and treaties that South Africa has entered well respected and upheld.
And do you think the South African government has the capacity to do that, the boldness to do that? Because in one breath, they are trying to manage emotions in their country. In another breath, they are trying not to anger their African neighbors. This is a very sensitive issue when it comes to South Africa. There's a homophobic attacks.
Yeah, it's complicated for them because of the political tone of it. But you see, once you have been able to identify a few of those people, you may not necessarily prosecute them, but bring them to the table and let them understand the magnitude of the effect that what they are doing will have on them. Those that engage in violence should be prosecuted, regardless of how political sensitive it is. You have to find a way to deal with it. So yes, it's a very complex situation for particularly for the ANC and its leaders who are on a very fragile political situation, because over the years they have lost a lot of following. They will not want to engage in that erode their political following further. But then they must also understand that there are also South Africans who are not happy with those others who are on the street. If you look at it, if you look at the handful of South Africans who are on the street and doing what they are doing compared to the larger
population
society, you may come to a point that, well, it is not the entire nation that will support an act like this. I think that he must also, if you really want to solve this problem, he must begin to deal seriously with the issue of illegal migration to South Africa, because the people on the street seems not to differentiate between a legal migrant and an illegal migrant. That's where the challenge is, because either the person is legal or illegal, they don't really care. They just lump all of them together. So if the South African Immigration Service will take it upon themselves and begin to show their society that they are actually enforcing their laws against illegal migrants, I think that the tension will die down. And then within that context, they can be able to deal with those who actually commit some of the crimes that we are seeing them committing in the name of chasing out foreigners from their country. So I think that, yes, the South Africans have a legitimate right to protest, and that must be done within the confines of their own laws. And their government must respond by making sure that if the country is being flooded by illegal migrants, then they have to enforce their migration laws, get some of those people out there, and that will virtually allow them to buy some credibility from their own population. And within that, then you can also punish those. You can also punish those who breach the law by attacking the foreigners or the migrants.
What diplomatic steps do you think African governments can take to prevent escalation?
So, as I've said, some of the steps we can take is the first thing that our embassy has done. Two is for African government to also send some caution to their citizens, not to appear aggressive towards the South African. These are emotionally charged people. These are people who, because they're in the crowd, there's this idea of mob mentality. The very gentle person, when he joins that crowd, loses his ability to think independently and therefore will acquire or assume the mentality of that mob. So if they are charged like that and you confront them, sometimes you end up being at the receiving end because they are more than you. So I think that they must also caution their citizens. And more importantly, we must begin to let our citizens understand that migrating to another country, even Africa or beyond Africa, you need to go through proper channels. You need to go through the right channels of migration. And you need to acquire the right papers. Even if you are there illegally, you must find a way to regularize your stay. I think that African government whose citizens are there illegally may decide to find ways to help their citizens regularize their stay, so that then the issue of illegal migration will not be the case. Because once you regularize your stay, you have more protection, you have more room to operate than what you can do as an illegal migrant. You'll be subjected to a lot of exploitation. The only difficulty that the South Africans seems not to identify that there are two sets of people they are dealing with. They seem to just lump all of them together, and that's where the difficulty is. But for African government who have their citizens residing in South Africa illegally, they must either find a way to bring them out or find a way to regularize their stay in South Africa so that they have a better protection under South African law.
Dr. Agyeman-Rawlings, thank you for your expert analysis. He's an international relations expert. Government has set in motion an agenda aimed at positioning Ghana as a leading aviation hub in West Africa. The project includes the construction of a connecting concourse or a walkway linking Terminal 2 and 3 at the Accra International Airport. It also involves repurposing Terminal 2 to accommodate international departures alongside its current domestic operations, as a move expected to ease congestion at Terminal 3 during peak periods. Speaking at the sword-cutting ceremony, President John Mahama also said he will be meeting the task force he set up to work towards the re-establishment of Ghana's national airline this week, and looking forward to receiving their presentation outlining the concrete roadmap for the country's re-established airline. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Akbaba has more in this report.
In his speech, President John Mahama said the project will transform how passengers move within the airport, enabling seamless, secure and efficient connectivity between the two terminals. He added that it would improve aircraft turnaround time, enhance passenger handling at transit points and elevate the overall service quality.
When completed, this connecting concourse will deliver the following: 5 passenger boarding bridges, air bridges, modern waiting and holding areas, premium and VIP lounges, retail and commercial facilities, and enhanced passenger service infrastructure.
He says the vision extends beyond aeronautical operations.
We're advancing plans for a 7-story, 2,000-car, multi-story car park at Terminal 3. A 7-story, 2,000-bay multi-story car park at Terminal 3, which will incorporate retail and dining areas, a sky view lounge. If you go up to the lounge, you'll be able to see the planes landing and taking off. A dual concept airport hotel. There'll be a hotel. Half of it will be budget for we the Mobrowa, and then the other half will be a luxury hotel for those who can afford it. Conference rooms and business spaces. This development will ease parking constraints, expand non-aeronautical revenue streams, and support the 24-hour economy policy.
He revealed that he will be meeting the task force he set up to work towards the re-establishment of Ghana's national airline this week, and is looking forward to receiving their presentation outlining a concrete roadmap for Ghana's new airline.
This week also, I'm meeting the task force I set up to work towards the re-establishment of our national airline. I'm looking forward to receiving their presentation outlining the concrete roadmap for Ghana's flag to fly proudly across Africa and in the global aviation space once again. A new national airline will not only create jobs for pilots, cabin crew, engineers, and other airline staff, it will also accelerate our ambition to become the most preferred aviation hub in West Africa.
Meanwhile, President John Mahama says the government has begun installing new 3D scanners at both Terminals 2 and 3. He explained that with the introduction of the new scanners, travelers will no longer need to remove laptops or tablets from their hand luggage during security checks.
We have also begun installation of new 3D scanners in both Terminal 3 and Terminal 2. With the installation of these scanners, it will make our aviation security safer. And aside from that, as the Minister said, it will take away the need for people to remove their laptops and their tablets from their hand luggage when they are going through security. It will make it also unnecessary for them to remove their shoes and their belts when they are going through aviation security. Ladies and gentlemen, competition in the West African aviation sector is intensifying. If Ghana is to claim and maintain its position as the preferred hub, we must invest deliberately, plan strategically, and execute efficiently.
Well, that's President John Mahama there. Away from that, producers of sachet water rolls and bottled water plastics in Kumasi began shutting down production lines over the growing impact of increased raw material costs on the operations. The manufacturers say the cost of importing the raw materials, particularly polymers from China and other parts of Asia, has risen by approximately 7.1%, putting production and price under strain. The manufacturers some weeks ago announced plans to increase their prices, but halted following a government intervention. But Joy News' Josephine Sego visited some sachet water manufacturing companies and reports of reduced production in the coming weeks and potential job losses if the situation persists. More in the following report.
The Trade Wings Chemist Limited has since its establishment in the Akosombo municipality produced plastic bottles and sachet water rolls. The facility produces 50 to 60 sachet water rolls daily, but production of the essential material for sachet water producers is increasingly becoming a struggle. Polymer, a raw material used in the production and packaging of water, is scarce at the global market. Management of the facility confirms that the surge in import costs has forced adjustments across their value chain. Kweku Eli is the production manager at Trade Wings Chemist Limited.
Usually we import all our raw materials from outside countries like China and other parts of the Arabian countries. And the war really affected our prices and importation. As I said earlier on, at first we used to import 1 ton of the raw material at a cost of $7,000 US. But because of the war and other factors that we may not know, the price has increased from the $7,000 to $7,500 per ton. And because of that, we have to also adjust our prices so that we can also do more importation.
Despite these challenges, the Ministry of Trade and Agribusiness has directed producers to maintain existing sachet water prices and suspend any increases. This aims at protecting consumers from further financial strain. However, the industry players argue that the directive does not reflect current market realities. At Happy Fountain Company Limited, the situation is similarly challenging. Production manager at Happy Fountain Company Limited, Mr. Frank Mensah stressed.
We are facing lots of challenges. Recently, the raw material prices are skyrocketing, and this, in a way, is affecting our prices, and our consumers are also complaining. Companies are scrambling for these raw materials, even though the prices are even high. You can't get it because they are unable to get the necessary materials to also produce for us. If we don't have the raw material, then as a company, we have no other option than to shut the plant. And when we shut the plant, we are going to lay people off. And that is also going to affect the country as a whole. So if the government wants people to still continue to work, if the government still wants the companies to continue to function, then they need to come in with subsidies.
Workers are also expressing fears over job security as operational challenges deepen.
If the company is not able to bear those costs, it means that workers are going to be laid off, and that is going to be a problem for us. Seriously, we are pleading to the government so that at least if she has got something to do, you see to that do it, so that at least most of us or some of us over here, at least we are having about 50 people working here. We have dependents, so it will be so bad if in case something of that sort will happen.
Reporting for Joy News, Josephine Sego.
Domestic fire outbreaks in Greater Accra have increased in the first quarter of 2026, raising fresh concerns about household safety and fire prevention practices. Data from the Regional Command Center shows that 109 domestic fires were recorded in the first quarter of 2025, rising to 136 cases in the same period this year, representing an increase of about 24.8%. Authorities say intensified public education, campaigns, routine inspections and stricter enforcement of safety regulations are needed to reverse this trend. The data comes as Ghana marks International Firefighters Day with a week-long program including stress management sessions for personnel, media outreach and open days at fire stations. And joining me in the studio right now is Greater Accra Chief Fire Officer, ACFO2, Rashid Nisau. Welcome to the program, Officer. What are the factors that contributed to the sharp rise in the fire outages that we experienced in the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of last year?
Good afternoon to you, my brother, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers. Let me correct this one. I'm not the chief fire officer, I'm the regional fire officer. Yeah, the slight increase in domestic fires is as a result of, we know normally when we are recording the fires, we include wooden structures. So slum dwellers and other things have contributed to this increase in domestic fires. It's not as if it's that alarming that everybody should be running away. When we studied it, we looked at that most of this was coming from slum dwellers and other things, using kiosks and containers as places of residence. That contributed to the slight increase in these domestic fires. Right. Yes.
I'm looking at the figures, and the one with the sharpest increase is domestic fires, but we also have vehicular fires.
Yes.
Right. So with that one, for instance, in the first quarter of this year, we recorded 27 so far. Yeah. And then the same period last year was 19. That is 8 more, an increase of 42%.
Yes.
Right.
Normally, what we do is, this year, for example, personally, I have gone to VVIP, I have gone to VIP, I have gone to almost all the transport terminals, trying to drum in the fire safety messages and encouraging them to buy extinguishers and also teach them how to operate them. So my advice is that if you are able to afford a car, at least an extinguisher, dry chemical powder extinguisher, is within the range of about some 200 cedis and 250. If you get it, I think it will be safer. So it explains that most people who are owning cars do not have extinguishers to quickly tackle the fire when it does occur. So that is the explanation that I can give for this one.
You mentioned that you went to VIP stations to advise the drivers. That means commercial drivers is where your particular concern is, but we have private drivers as well, most of whom do not have fire extinguishers in their cars. Looking at your data, which of these type of drivers avoid having safety fire precautions in their vehicles? Commercial, private?
I think I can stick my neck out and say it's commercial. Most of them are commercial. Those who are owning private cars, most of them, if you go and try to educate them, they open their boots, you see that they have extinguishers. What I can advise on that one also is for the general public to avail themselves. Having the extinguisher is one thing, and knowing how to operate it is also another. And that explains why this particular week, from on the 27th of April to 4th of May, declared by the Chief Officer that we should commemorate International Firefighters Day, to climax it on the 4th. I'm using this opportunity to come personally to the studio here, and we drum in fire safety messages to try to reduce this trend.
Is it an event open to the public?
It is. It is. Yesterday, the week-long celebration is all about, in fact, it started in 1999 in Linton, Australia, where some 5 firefighters went to extinguish bushfire, and they were engulfed, the wind direction changed, they were engulfed, and then they were consumed by the fire. Then right from there, globally, it has been accepted that on the 4th of May, firefighters should be celebrated all over the world. So we have decided, the Chief Officer, Daniel Amausi into Sapon, have decided that on the 27th, that was yesterday, all fire service flags to fly half-mast. We are wearing the ribbon to signify red and blue, water having power over the fire. Then today is media engagement. That is the reason why you can find me here today. Tomorrow is open day. We are open to the general public to come. Whatever you want to know about fire service tomorrow, you are invited to our various stations, so long as the Greater Accra region is concerned. Our TLs, turntable ladders are there. Our hydraulic platforms are there for you to see. The tenders are there, the watchroom, the control room. Whatever you want to know about fire service is open to you tomorrow. Then on Thursday is going to be a float right from the various stations, and we'll all converge at Mokola. Then on Friday, we'll have our games, and then we are going to climax it on Monday with a parade, and then we'll have to recognize those who have been injured along the line and those who have also not been lucky to pass away. We've invited their families to sort of award them and recognize them, since we have to. A nation that does not honor its heroes is not worth dying for. So we take this opportunity as a climax to also appreciate their efforts, who have paid the ultimate price. So that is it.
I think it's a very important initiative, because as the saying goes, fire can be a good servant and bad master, depending on how you use it. Let's talk about the domestic fire, because that's the most common. Which types of domestic fires usually happen? What types of domestic fires are most common?
Let me tell you a sad story. Just some 2 days ago, the radio was radioing that there was a fire outbreak behind Old Melcom in Medina, and after some 10 minutes, the men radioed back that a 5-year-old boy was involved in fire. What happened was they suspect that a candle was lit in a kiosk unattended to, and the parents were not available. So candle lighting, unattended cooking, faulty electrical appliances, prolonged use of electrical equipment. Some electrical equipment are not designed for prolonged use. Unlike a fridge that has a thermostat that can come on when it wants the temperature is okay for it, go off when the temperature is too much. Some electrical appliances are not designed that way. So
what types?
Look at a radio, for example. A radio, some people keep their radios on throughout the night. That is not a good practice, because if the current goes off and comes back again, you wouldn't know there could be excess current. It can blow the machine and you'll be asleep before you realize you are engulfed by fire. Unattended cooking.
Right.
We've recorded unattended cooking at homes. The last time we had one was in Abofu, when a lady put soup on fire, went to church. The only time she recognized or remembered that she had lit fire and left the home was when the whole place was engulfed in fire. So if you want to know what are the causes of these domestic fires, unattended cooking, faulty electrical appliances, and gas, you can bear with me, you've seen some before. You see a gas cylinder carrying a stone. What does that mean? It means the gas has been leaking, and the person is aware that this gas is leaking. So to go take it for servicing, the only shortcut is to go pick a stone and place it on the head of the and you see it anywhere you go. You see these things that's happening. It's a bad practice. And we also want to discourage people who keep their electrical gadgets throughout the night. TVs, they don't off them. They only put them on hibernation. The light is still on. We will advise that if you want to sleep, apart from your fridge, you should go around and ensure that every electrical appliance is off, all sockets are off. You don't iron, and when you don't need the iron, you just off the switch and go and sleep, and leave the iron still plugged in the socket.
That's dangerous.
That's a dangerous thing. Then the little boy or anybody who can just go and touch it, and before you realize, so we advise that if you finish ironing, then please unplug it safely and put it down. If you want to use it, you use it again. So these are the practices.
Another practice that is very common, I don't know if it causes fire outbreak or can cause fire outbreak, is people sleeping and charging their phones.
That's also a factor.
Usually they even put the phone under their pillow and sleep on it.
So this practice, if you want to know whether it causes fire or not, after some time, feel the pillow. You will see that the pillow is generating what? Heat. And the triangle of combustion is made up of heat, oxygen, and fuel. Oxygen is in the environment because you're the one sleeping. That is what you feed on.
Yeah.
And then the heat is what you are introducing into the pillow. And the pillow is already fuel. In fire engineering science, anything that can burn is fuel. So if this thing is put under a pillow, what it means is that after some time, the triangle of combustion will be complete, and then you can have fire. We should also advise that if the light goes off the power is interrupted and you want to leave the house, the fan was on, you need to put it off before you go. Some people leave everything on. As soon as the current comes, the TV comes automatically, the fan comes automatically. Everything is a bad practice because it will take some time for the voltage to stabilize. So as soon as we advise that if you don't have any immediate use, just put everything off. Even when the light comes, you need to wait for at least 10 minutes when the current is stabilized before you can then on your TVs. Not that as soon as the light comes on, you start owning every electrical appliance that you need. It's also a bad practice that we need to check.
Apart from the domestic fires, I see that electrical installation is the second highest in terms of nominal figures. The first quarter, we accounted about 63 of them, and in this quarter, we have 68. That is an increase of 8%, 5 more than the previous year. Electrical installation, what are the reasons? Is it that people are buying inferior electrical gadgets, people are not employing people with expertise to install it? What really causes that?
They are all part of the package, but most of these electrical installations are also transformer fires that we've attended, wooden electric poles that we've attended. All these things are recorded under the umbrella of electrical fires. So we shouldn't look at it as only those electrical appliances that are not properly, they are the inferior electrical appliances, but wooden light poles are part of it. Transformers are also part of it because we put all of them together as electrical.
What safety precautions should somebody have at home when it comes to fire? Because you can practice all these precautions that you've mentioned, but as you mentioned, the transformer could catch fire and enter your house. You usually see that people don't have fire extinguishers at home. People don't even have an emergency exit at home. What should people do domestically?
Domestically, number one, if you are now building, that is a very good advice that I am giving out there. Get to the nearest fire station, submit your building plan. We will look at it and ensure and advise you where your kitchen should be. Your kitchen should not be at the entrance, where in time of emergency, where you will run and pass. Your kitchen should not be there because the likelihood of fire always starting in the kitchen is high. You shouldn't also have one exit in your house. To ensure, excuse me to say, those of us who have lived in the village, who've hunted for rats and all those things, you will see that the rat has an emergency exit, that you are chasing it here before you realize it has exited from somewhere and it's going. You need to chase it before you get it. So then if even the, excuse me to say, the rodent in the forest is able to have this plan, then we think that we as humans here in town, if you are putting up a structure, the first thing to do is to ensure that you have an emergency exit so that if the main entrance is blocked, you can have access through the emergency. That is when the construction is now starting. If you have already completed the structure, the advice is that fire manifests itself in 3 ways: through smoke, through heat, and through flames. Every fire has any of all this. So then there are flame detectors, there are heat detectors, there are smoke detectors. So the moment you have these things in place, the slightest smoke, even with a cigar, will trigger the alarm and make you aware that there is a fire in your house. Then quickly, you also need an extinguisher and learn how to operate it, and quickly you will handle it. Because a fire has a life cycle. It starts small, mature, become a matured fire. So if you are able to tackle it at the initial, even the initial stage, you may not even need an extinguisher at all. You can even use your leg to trample upon it, and that will be the end of the story. But the most important thing is to pick the signal, and that comes from either your smoke detector, your heat detector, or your flame detector. So the best advice is for everybody to ensure that these detection systems, notification systems, and suppression systems to detect fire at homes are there to safeguard lives and properties.
There are millions of homes in Ghana which have neither of these. I mean, emergency exit is even the worst. Most homes don't have emergency exits. What would be your advice to homes that do not have emergency exits? What can they do?
I think that it is a necessity. Anybody listening to me, if you have a home that has only one entrance, I think you can do better. Just call in the mason the next morning to ensure that you have an emergency exit, because it's a necessity. You can't live, if you are an expert and you are in a home that has no emergency exit and you have the safety eye, you can't sleep because you know the risk you have put yourself into. You see, we have people who have security eyes, people who have safety eye. You are a journalist, you have the journalist. When you enter a place, you are snooping for news, isn't it?
Yes.
So if a fireman should enter a place, definitely he's also looking out for safety. There are other places that I enter, and I wouldn't like to spend even 10, 15 to 20 minutes there because I know that that place is not safe for habitation, or because the escape routes, the emergency exits, the measures that are supposed to be in place are non-existent. So if there is a home like that, I think your platform is a big one. Looking at International Firefighters Day, it's a package for people who do not have emergency exits to do well to create them. It's not too late. We can't bargain on this one. I'm so sorry, we can't bargain on this one. Sorry.
The final one will be markets.
Yes.
Almost every year we hear about markets burning, and that's one place that people from all walks of life are usually there, especially traders and people who go there to buy stuff. What would be your advice to market men and women on how to prevent the perennial fire outbreaks that we record in major markets across the country?
Okay, so in Greater Accra, I have ensured Kantamanto, Malata, Madina, Domi, mention the markets. There are fire posts and fire personnel permanently stationed there. Notwithstanding, your question is, what measures should they put in place? One, cooking in the markets. Most of our reports indicate that some of these fires were originated by what? Cooking, unattended cooking. So we would like to advise to discourage our mothers and sisters who are cooking in the market. Two, a market should have the time for opening and the time for closing. You shouldn't have access to the market anytime. No. If you do that, somebody who has a bad intention like arsonists can take advantage and burn down the market.
Wow. This one is just by the way, but President Mahama says he's going to build 24-hour market, which are going to run for 24 hours. Per what you're saying, does that mean that it's not a good policy, the 24-hour market?
It's a fantastic policy.
Right.
That is not to say that it's a fantastic policy. But the truth is that what it means is that we must have personnel who should take care of it in the morning because daytime, everybody is awake, we are all working. So most of the market fires, you leave and it happens. But now that we are going to be there in the night, it means the opportunity that it will trigger and we will not see will not be there. I don't know whether you are getting my point.
I do.
Yes, so that is fantastic. There's no cause for alarm.
Right.
Looking at market fires too, I also want to say that some things that our mothers and sisters sell in the market, we've investigated some fires, can also cause the fires. Take a product like cupboard. There has been a market fire we investigated and the cause was cupboard. She had water in a water bottle. It fell in cupboard, generated smoke. She didn't know. She went in for more water to extinguish fire and it degenerated and became a big fire in this country. It can also result in the market fire. And look at hot works like welders. If you need to weld in the market, you need the protection of fire officers to be by you with extinguishers to be able to do welding. Electrical, if you want to connect power, don't just allow, market authorities shouldn't allow anybody to come in and connect. No. We'll advise that if you want to connect electricity in the market, you should go for certified electricians by Energy Commission to come in and do the connections for you. Don't do illegal connections. These things are also sources of market fires in this country.
What I've taken out of this conversation is that, yes, the Ghana National Fire Service can do its part.
Yes.
But most of the fires that happen are preventable.
They are.
And if we take the precautionary safety measures, we wouldn't need to call in the fire service.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Greater Accra Fire Officer, ACFO2 Rashid Nisau. Thank you for your time this evening.
I think I want to invite you to the clamors of the event.
Right.
On Monday,
okay.
Yes, I want you to send your reporters to the national regional headquarters, and then you see our parade and see how we are going to honor our heroes and make them happy. And I want to use this opportunity to appeal to Ghanaians, particularly Greater Accra region, to show some love for the firefighter so long as this week is concerned.
Right.
Thank you very much.
I agree with you. They should show love because you are putting your lives on the lines to save Ghanaians. Thank you very much for coming.
I'm grateful, my brother.
And we will definitely be there as well.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
You're still watching The Pulse. Return from the break with more. Don't go anywhere.
Across Ghana, in communities big and small, ordinary people are doing extraordinary things. This is the Joy News Impact Makers Awards 2026, celebrating those who are changing lives, shaping futures, and building hope. From Bimbila in the northern region, Faith Jakbasu is transforming classrooms through innovation, inclusive learning, and life-changing initiatives for students, teachers, and vulnerable communities. From Aflao in the Volta region, Felix Akakbo is building schools, supporting students, and investing in the future of an entire community. In health, from Winneba in the central region, Amos Ando is turning his personal battle with sickle cell into a national movement for awareness, prevention, and policy change. From Nkwanta in the Oti region, Bless Lantam is delivering life-changing healthcare to hard-to-reach communities, even in the face of conflict. From Insawam Edwardri in the eastern region, Antonio Say is restoring mobility, dignity, and opportunity through prosthetics and outreach across Ghana. From Adenta in the Greater Accra region, Valerie Ajatia is empowering amputees with hope, rehabilitation, and the courage to rebuild their lives. From Anyanui and Loga in the Volta region, Reverend Christian Valeto is rescuing, treating, and reintegrating neglected mental health patients back into society. From Akuse in the eastern region, Alberta Aite is mentoring, educating, and empowering over 1,000 girls to dream beyond limitations. From Senya Breku in the central region, Isabella Akwabwa fighting period poverty and equipping women and girls with skills for independence. In Wash, from Sirigu in the Upper East region, Dr. Anthony Akunzele is improving livelihoods through clean water, education, and economic opportunities for women. From Akache in the Volta region, Senior Bomita is transforming communities through schools, clean water, healthcare access, and youth empowerment. And for the Corporate Partner Award from the Cape Coast Youth Development Association is empowering thousands of young people through education, skills training, and community development. These are not just finalists. These are change makers. They are nation builders. They are Ghana's true heroes. Joy News Impact Makers Awards, celebrating ordinary people making extraordinary impacts. Who takes this home?
The 2026 Joy News Impact Makers Awards is brought to you by Ghana CEO Summit, a decade of leadership impact. Labadi Beach Hotel, Ayuda, Ghana's #1 services app. Abakun, Services Bibri, New Crystal Hospital, growing in good health. Sulas Enterprise, where quality meets affordability. Water Aid Ghana, change starts with water. Ghana Chamber of Mines.
Welcome back. For many rural households in northern region, farmlands are more than livelihoods. They represent kinship, ancestry, and heritage. But unpredictable climate conditions are disrupting this way of life, pushing families to seek opportunities in cities like Accra and Kumasi. Yet, living does not mean forgetting. Foods like fura, tuozafi, tubani, and wache remain common. Dagmani is still spoken at home, and traditional dances now feature at social gatherings. What is emerging is not a loss of culture, but a quiet reinvention of identity. The following report has more.
For many rural households, their farmlands are more than livelihoods. They reflect kinship and ancestry, a pathway for history and heritage to be passed down. Yet, uncertain climate regimes have caused a deep lingering disturbance to this rhythm, thereby pushing families to search for opportunities beyond their farms. Finding these in cities like Accra and Kumasi, migrants eventually prove that living does not mean forgetting fura, tuozafi, tubani, or wache in the markets. Elders speak Dabani at home, and dances once reserved for harvest festivals now brighten weddings and churchyards. What has emerged is not lost, but a reshaping, cultural reintervention. A smoke attire matched with jeans, a child scolded in Dagati, yet responding in English or another local language different from their mother tongue.
Burkina is one of my favorite meals, and I always feel good whenever I take it. My top choice remains mashed kinky and Burkina. Just as other tribes enjoy native dishes from my tribe, I also appreciate the traditional foods of other cultures.
The way we prepare akple in our tribe differs from how it's made here. Fortunately, there are people from our tribe in Accra who sell akple, so we buy from them every day, making it easier to stay connected with our native cuisine when we migrate.
Lead for strategic initiatives for African governance SAGE, Dr. Shelter Gache says that migration has existed since the dawn of time, but in recent times, migration is heavily influenced by climate change. She mentioned that some have argued that this climate-induced migration leads to loss of cultural identity and in some instances cause a disruption in the culture of the host community they settle in. However, Dr. Shelter Gachi suggests that it is being looked at again, and this time around at the positive side.
In Ghana, particularly the northern savannah, we have prolonged droughts and unpredictable rainfall that affects farm yields, and this in turn affects the livelihood of the local farmer. When this happens, some of them choose or are compelled to move down south to look for a better chance at livelihood. Some have argued that this movement sometimes causes a loss to their cultural identity, and in some instances it causes a disruption in the culture of the host communities they settle in.
She added that since the positives are not highlighted enough, people only push the negative narrative as influx on social amenities in the host communities. She's hoping that migration, and in this case climate-related migration, could be looked at cultural renewal.
However, when it is not highlighted enough, we tend to push forth the negative narrative that climate migration or migration in itself causes a disruption to our cultural identity. I would push for the fact that first of all, migration should be recognized as an adaptation strategy. When this is done, it serves to streamline certain things we can put in place to help this migrant keep their cultural roots in check. We can also provide funding, community spaces for migrant-led groups, whereby we can encourage food fairs and festivals in the host communities for these migrants.
This story is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with CDKN Ghana, University of Ghana Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, with funding from Claire R4I Opportunities Fund.
Responding to what he described as the desperate voices of students, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has donated essential educational and administrative equipment valued at over 70,000 Ghana cedis to Sombo Senior High School in the Nadoli-Kaleo district. Alban Bagbin noted that the donation aims to directly address key logistical shortfalls across multiple departments. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
Their commitment was fulfilled during a colorful handing over ceremony where the Speaker, Alban Sumana Kinsport Babin, was met with a grand traditional reception. Students draped in beautiful traditional attire welcomed him with an elaborate cultural dance, setting the stage for a day of both celebration and earnest appeals for community development. Delivering his address to the gathered crowd, the Speaker revealed that his intervention was prompted by a letter dated January 29, 2026, alongside the direct pleas of the school's leadership.
I heard the cry of the chairman of the Board of Governors, the Parent-Teacher Association chairman, and the headmaster. Through the grapevine, I also heard desperate voices of students complaining of unavailable teaching and learning aids and basic equipment that must support their studies. So I heard your cry far, far away in Accra, and I have come.
Likening the young educational institution to a growing child, the Speaker praised the management, staff, and students for their continued resilience.
We can't solve all the school problems in a day, but we will keep resourcing it until this beautiful child called Sombo Senior High grows into an adult and a giant institution that trains some of the best brains for the world. We're not saying for only Ghana, for the world.
The sweeping donation aims to directly resolve key logistical shortfalls across multiple departments. To support the Home Economics Department, the Speaker presented a refrigerator for preserving foodstuff, 6 large tables for practicals, 2 cooking stoves, 2 gas cylinders, a set of cooking utensils, 5 sewing machines, 2 electric irons, and a kettle. To strengthen the school's administration, he provided 2 desktop computers, 2 laptops, a color printer, a multi-purpose photocopier with toner, and then Wawa boards for constructing library shelves. Furthermore, a 14-key xylophone and a talking drum were donated to facilitate the learning of local culture.
Let me, however, caution that you guard, protect, and preserve the few equipment we have managed to provide so that successive batches of students can also benefit from them.
While the donation serves as a major milestone, school authorities use the platform to highlight present infrastructural deficits. Headmaster of the school, Bartholomew Monsoseyiri, traced the school's history from a small community day school established in 2016 with just 25 students to its absorption by the government in 2019. The school currently has a student population of 78. He, however, pointed out that many structural projects remain stalled.
Among the uncompleted structures, our ultra-modern administration block is just right there behind the high table. It's so magnificent and so huge. The rooms are so many that we are unable even to tell how many rooms are there. As of now, it is almost done, but not yet until it is done. The next most fine and big uncompleted structure is a 16-unit, 1-story block for the girls' dormitory. It is behind this block if you go there. It has been roofed, with tiling and electricals.
Intervention drew widespread commendation from local government and educational authorities. District Chief Executive for Nadolo-Kaleo, Madam Mer Haruna, praised the Speaker's continual service to the region.
A developmentally oriented chief who uses influence to build people from parliament to the classroom. You continue to serve Ghana and Nadolo-Kaleo
district with distinction. To our students, this is your charge. Receive this support with discipline and purpose. Study hard, because the same soil that produced the speaker can produce doctors, lawyers, teachers, and many more leaders.
Adding to the voices of appreciation, Chief of Sombo, Nana Moyerpui II, alongside his sub-chiefs, and the Pona commended the speaker and encouraged him to keep doing good works, undeterred by any criticism from within the community. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam, Sombo.
An agricultural mechanization program launched by Agric is opening new job opportunities for young people while raising productivity in farming communities. The initiative, dubbed Youth Entrepreneurship for the Future of Food and Agric, focuses on equipping young entrepreneurs with machinery and skills to support local farmers. Agric says the scheme addresses youth unemployment and the need for modern farming methods across the sector.
For decades, rural farming has relied heavily on manual labor, slowing work and limiting yields. The YEFFA program is changing that by introducing agricultural machinery and training to ensure efficiency. Young people receive training and support to own and run their equipment. Agric's team was in the region to visit its beneficiaries. The team visited Kodo Technology, producers of sanitary parts, Mark May Limited, who are into catering service. They also visited Humeira to Zakaria and Rukaya Ibrahim, who are farmers. The two said the initiative has helped them improve their farm.
I was the one being trained how to use this particular machine, and to also use my skills to train my other colleagues, so that together we can use it at our farm to improve our farming activity. I want to use this opportunity to thank Agric for this wonderful support, which is very obvious that it will go a long way to improve our work at the farm. We can even stay away and determine whatever is happening at the farm. It helps us to map and locate the boundaries of the farm and everything.
Another beneficiary, Ajia Alhassan Memuna, said she's been able to increase production and employ more.
Currently, I have more than 300 women processors. Even though everybody cannot be in the center here, they are in their various communities doing the processing, bring it to the mill because of the milling quality, mill, and then have a good market for their product. I have benefited from the project, and also other women have also benefited.
Project coordinator Ellison Owusu-Fojo said the project is self-sustaining, but appealed to government to support the youth in establishing their businesses.
So the Farm Pro app is embedded with sign language, and perhaps is the first in our country that allows people who can sign in the Ghanaian sign language to also be able to have access to agronomic or extension information that are climate smart enough, that are farm specific. On a whole, it is going to improve productivity, particularly in their yields. We are also ready to support them with other inputs, including seeds and then other support service, to ensure that the young people, in spite of their disability, they are able to produce more for the nation.
The Volta and Oti community in the Upper West region, in collaboration with the EU Hababo, has outdoored its new chief, Togbi Mauto Kujo Afako, in a vibrant ceremony showcasing Ewe culture and tradition. Togbi Mauto Kujo becomes the 10th chief in 60 years to lead the Ewe community in the region. Joy News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafik Salam has more.
The atmosphere was filled with excitement and merrymaking, with attendees adorned in traditional costumes featured to Ebed Brahmin, singing, and an energetic performance of the popular Bobobo dance. Speaking in an interview ahead of the ceremony, Togbe Mauto Kujo Kozime Afako, who becomes the 10th chief to lead the community in its over 60-year history in the region, expressed surprise at his selection.
Growing up, my father was somebody who brought the areas together and then made sure that the areas had some kind of unity. And it never dawned on my father himself to become a chief before until he passed on. So for me, being the chief is actually a surprise. But I thank God, because God ordains and he does things in his own way.
Detailing his immediate priorities, the new chief emphasized unity and cultural preservation among the diverse group, which has around 35 to 40 different languages.
We have a great number of areas in the Upper West region, but unfortunately many of them do not come close to us. But we do everything possible together with the Ibihabobo to make sure that we bring all our compatriots closer and together, so that we were to bring unity and love among ourselves, and also help in the development of the Upper West region, precisely why.
Shedding light on the historical significance of the installation in a separate interview, Chairman of the Ever Union in Wa, James Phillips Koto, explained that the community had been without a substantive chief for 11 years. He detailed that following the passing of the previous chief, they had relied on an acting chief, Togwe Thompson, Franklin Koku, whose subsequent transfer out of the region created a leadership vacuum that this ceremony finally fills.
After the demise of the last chief we had, with the help of Dr. Luchu, then he assisted us to elect one Thompson Koku to lead us. Now I'm the assistant to him. Before, unfortunately, he was in God's work. He was a catechist too, so he was then transferred. There he relinquished his position.
Mr. Koto used the occasion to issue a personal plea to all Ebers residing in the Upper West region to actively participate in the union's activities, noting that some community members have shied away from their situation.
No one can exist alone in that vacuum. Wherever you are, you cannot isolate yourself. You have to mingle with the people, come together with your people. So I urge those now coming in and those who are already here, whom we have been calling, but they look as if the messages are falling on deaf ears. No, we are appealing to them that they should also come up so that we recognize each other and then do things in common.
During his swearing-in, Togwe Afeko pledged to serve his people with honesty, humility, wisdom, and love.
To my people, I want you to know that leadership is service. I have not come to rule over you or to lord over you, but to work with you, listen to you, and serve the interests of all.
He urges people whom he described as being in economic exile to actively invest in the peace and development of their host region, while also remembering to build their communities back home.
I pledge to lead with wisdom, fairness, and unity, to uphold the values that define us as a people. My doors shall always be open to everyone, regardless of age, tribe, religion, or status in society. I'll promote peace, love, and development among our people. Let us put aside division and work hard in hand for the progress of our society here.
Delivering a goodwill message, head pastor of Faith Foundation Baptist Church, Reverend Dr. Timothy Sedu, advised the chief to let his heart be led by God to fulfill his pleasure.
You should know that your heart is in the hand of the Lord. If you have desires to do right, He will move your heart to do right.
Member of Parliament for Wa Central and Minister for Labour, Employment and Jobs, Dr. Rashid Hassan Pilipu, praised the Ever community for their exemplary and peaceful coexistence in the region.
We have known him for all these years. The Ever community has been a very peaceful community, and we hope that there will be an exemplary community for the rest of the communities that are living here.
Reporting for Dway News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Efforts by the East Mamprisi Municipal Chief Executive to resolve escalating tensions in Bintri have ended in a stalemate, as residents firmly rejected his appeal to lift the suspension on market revenue collection. At a community engagement held today, the MC met with chiefs, opinion leaders and residents in a bid to de-escalate growing agitation over controversial market arrangements. The suspension of revenue collection was early enforced following protests linked to dissatisfaction over the relocation and structure of the proposed 24-hour economy market. Our correspondent Ilyasu Tanko has more.
The engagement followed intensified agitations by residents, including the suspension of market revenue collection over the relocation of the 24-hour economy market project. Residents have also accused the Municipal Assembly of neglecting the general development of Bintiri and its surrounding communities. The meeting, originally scheduled for 9 a.m., finally began after 1 p.m. following hours of delay. Frustrated by the long wait, some residents threatened to boycott the event. Finally, upon arrival, the municipal chief executive and his delegation exchanged courtesies with the chief and his elders before outlining the purpose of their visit to Bintiri.
Chief, we are here to address the concerns you raised in the petitions you sent to us.
The MCA then addressed the anxious crowd. In his remarks, Mr. David Bukari Barichi sought to justify the relocation of the 24-hour economy market project from Bintiri to Langbensi and Sakogu.
The Assembly can point to completed development project in Bintiri, including the following. 1. Construction and furnishing of a 3-unit classroom block at Bintiri Senior High and completed lockable market stores at Bintiri, both under Soko funding. Today, we wish to let you know that because of the strategic position of Bintiri, the area is also lined up for further projects that directly address the community concerns. This includes a modern cattle market to be built by Ghana Development Communities Association. 2. A 3-unit classroom block is earmarked this year for the community to expand access to education. An agro-processing center is being established by the African Development Bank.
He also rejected claims that the Assembly had neglected development in the area.
The claim that Bintiri has been ignored is not supported by the development records of the East Mamprisi Municipal Assembly. Bintiri has already benefited from completed and ongoing interventions, and additional projects have been earmarked in the current and next phase of the 24-hour economy and related development agenda.
Mr. Barichi appealed to the chief and residents of Bintiri to allow the resumption of revenue mobilization activities, warning that the prolonged suspension could affect donor support and the Assembly's ability to deliver essential services.
We urge you to immediately lift the revenue suspension to ensure our donor community have confidence in our ability to resolve conflict and support the above project that Bintiri will be benefiting and not send wrong signal to them to change their minds. Remember, there's no penalty for goodwill.
The MCA, while appealing for understanding and cooperation, emphasized the need for dialogue and the gradual implementation of development projects. Despite the assurances, community members maintain that the market project is central to their economic growth and livelihood, insisting that any attempt to resume revenue collection without addressing their demands will be unacceptable. The chief stated that the project was a campaign promise made by President Mahama to him and his people and therefore must be fulfilled.
It was Bintiri in the East Mamprisi municipality that John Jinapor in Mahama, His Excellency, did a lot of work and work in the area. As to tell you the MC, the municipal, the constituency chairman of the great NDC and the regional minister, that
Opinion leaders in the community also backed the chief's position.
And with that same hand, your community was able to generate 300 Ghana cedis. So if we are talking about 24-hour economies and signing of projects where they are supposed to be sent, then I think we should have been considered first.
In the end, the engagement concluded without a resolution, highlighting the deepening divide between municipal authorities and the Gbintiri community. From Gbintiri for Joy News, Elias Sotanko reporting.
Peace. Gbintiri development. Gbintiri development. Thank you very much.
In the United States, a child born with 6 fingers sees a surgeon before their first birthday. In Ghana, that same child may be hidden for years, not because of poverty alone, but because of fear of curses and of shame. Today, inside the Tachyiman Holy Family Hospital, one family stopped being afraid. And Nasser Bid has this story.
It was the last day of the XO World Project Foundation's surgical mission. Nearly 100 children had already received free orthopedic and plastic surgeries, cleft foot, cleft lip, bone contractures, but one case remained. A young boy born with polydactyly, 6 fingers on one hand. In many places, a simple fix. In rural Ghana, often a source of stigma. But today, it was just another problem waiting for a solution.
We're here for bilateral ulnar polydactyly and excision of extra digits. He has no allergies.
The team didn't rush him. They held him, talked to him, waited until he felt safe, and then he slept. Silence filled the theater and the work began. Co-founder and CEO of the XO World Project Foundation, Colin Brannan, described the project as a life-saving mission between the team and the Holy Family Hospital.
This mission, it means everything to us. The partnership that we've developed with this hospital is wonderful. So we really work as a family together, and the growth that we have seen is huge. The level of quality of care that's being delivered here. We're really happy that we're part of that.
For Dr. Stefan Cohen, who is a co-founder and the head of surgery, the team's ability to help these children will leave a great impact for the rest of their lives.
We do pediatrics because we know how much of a difference for a person's entire life that can make. And I just looked at the pictures of all the kids we did in the last 5 missions, and I thought, oh my God, there are so many children that are just around here that have hopefully been able to pick up and go back to doing their lives and improve and join the community and all that kind of thing. It's an enormous impact.
Dr. Colleen also wants to correct a harmful misconception about children born with deformities, noting that these are natural things. She said they happen everywhere and communities must understand this is not a curse.
Facial deformities, and this is something that can be easily fixed, and there's no direct cause. So a mother cannot cause this, and I think community should understand that this is just something when a baby is developing that nobody can really help. There's no bad omens. There's nothing that the mother or the family or anybody has done wrong. But it has nothing to do with anybody that has done anything wrong.
Lead surgeon Dr. Stefan Cohen puts it in a much better perspective, noting that the number of children born with cleft lip or cleft foot in the United States is almost the same as in Ghana, adding that in the States they get help early.
There's the same number of clefts in Ghana that there are in the United States. It's not a higher incidence. It happens at the same rate. It's just that in the United States, there's so many cleft centers that everybody gets fixed. So over here, it's the same number. It's just that because people don't have access. So when we come and we do all this number of people, we feel like we're catching up.
For Dr. Senyo Gudube, who is a senior specialist in the orthopedic trauma unit and head of the local team here at the Holy Family Hospital, this mission gives hope. The patients win, and so does the facility.
It's a mission that sort of fills a gap in the care that we are able to deliver to the population in the region. So anytime these doctors come, they help us attend to these children. For most of them, they don't really have any hope. So it's a collaboration that benefits first our children.
Dr. Senyo asked that the partnership doesn't just end when the team flies home. Local staff are trained, equipment stays behind, and knowledge takes root.
For the hospital, it puts us as one of the places where we can actually have a collaboration that allows us to bring the skills down here and also transfer some knowledge to the local faculty. So for most of the cases that they did, I joined them because some of them have not trained to do it. But because of their presence, now I am able to do some of these procedures. So it's a win-win. Our patients benefit, but we also get that skills transferred to us, to the local faculty here.
The surgery took less than an hour, but its echo will last a lifetime. In just 6 days, nearly 100 children received new chances at a normal life. No flights abroad, no impossible bills, just skill, compassion, and partnership. The XO World Project and Holy Family Hospital have shown that sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't a drug, it is just showing up. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Tachyiman.
It's a wrap for The Pulse this evening. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. There you have it. Our top story this hour says President Mahama cuts sword for new airport concourse project to link terminals 2 and 3. Thank you very much for being a part of the show this evening. The news team returns at 7 p.m. with News Prime. My name is Kenneth Gyasi. Have a good evening.
All right, this is Let's Talk Showbiz. This is Let's Talk Showbiz right here on the Joy News platform, the Joy News channel. My name is Ike, and this